Welcome back, everybody. It's Saturday. We're not talking Malazan. I know I wanted to do like Malazan abstract stuff on Saturday, but I'm not quite there yet, so we're doing something else on Saturday. Well, actually, it's Friday when I'm recording this, but never mind. Yeah, today I want to continue my revisiting the first law thing because I finished reading Before They're Hanged. I'm already in Last Argument of Kings, so that's what I want to do today. It's not exactly a review, so this is going to be like full spoilers and stuff because I've read it a decade ago, over a decade ago, and I feel it's time to go back at it and look, see what I think of it nowadays, I guess. So let's do this. All right. So yeah, I went back, and not only did I read The Blade itself, which I quite enjoyed, I went back to Before They're Hanged, which I had a more fuzzy memory of and a less positive one, and I feel like both of those things have kind of been confirmed in a way, maybe even more so. So there's the thing. There's this one big thing happening in apparently Last Argument of Kings that I always thought would happen in Before They're Hanged. So that was interesting to see that I got that wrong in my memory over time. So I'm gonna rant about it next time I talk about Last Argument of Kings. But there's enough stuff to talk about in Before They're Hanged that I was still not completely happy with, and that I found, basically, I feel at this point I have a handle on early Joe Abercrombie's whole like thing, and while I enjoy some parts of it, there's others that I really have more and more issues with, and we're gonna go through those. Some are the same that I spoke about before. I spoke about last time in when I was talking about the Blade itself. Some are maybe more like different ones, I guess, or new ones in a way. So let's go through all of this. Like, what's the positive one bits? Once again, the dialogue, the really, gruff, short dialogue kind of thing, is extremely well executed. Joe Abercrombie really excels at this like gruff dialogue, extremely dry, slightly self-deprecating humor, especially with Logan Ninefingers. That kind of thing is, yeah, that's his thing, and he's just really, really good at it, and I appreciate that a lot. It's the kind of thing that I enjoy reading from time to time. I mean, I also enjoy my very baroque kind of prose. But from time to time, this is refreshing. This makes it read really easily. That's the other things. Like I blast through these Abercrombie books. I mean, I'm doing my Malazan reread at the moment, and those take much longer. And I feel that I'm not saying Abercrombie is a worse writer or anything. That's bullshit. No, I'm saying that the first law books are not as dense, and a lot of their, at least to me, and a lot of their themes and topics are much more obvious. Like, Abercrombie hits you on the nose with stuff oftentimes, and a lot of these things, like, so if to use a like a metaphor, there is like, if when we're talking paintings, I guess your for example, not, I feel Abercrombie is somewhere between comic book and your 70s 80s Frank Frazetta painting. Like, all is in super bold, stark lines. Everything is big, thick pencil, bold colors, all of that. A lot of that stuff. There's not that much nuance in these books. There is some, obviously, which is why I said more like Frank Frazetta than like full-on comic book. But that's the point. It is, a lot of it is very bold characterizations, slightly over the top, larger than life, sometimes almost caricatures of things, and that's something that I oftentimes can't really get in the spirit of, or feel is too, I don't know, is it's just not really my thing, and I feel it sometimes does disservice to the whole thing, because there could be more in there if you actually would bother to put some more nuance in there. And I feel that's probably like the big failing of, once again, this one, is that mostly I had an issue with the, not generally the Colin West plot line. That one's okay-ish, I feel, but the depiction of Prince Ladisla and the nobleman there. Because, like, I get it, and I mean, it's hard to not get how dissolute and detached from reality and decadent those bastards are. I mean, you get that like after 2 minutes, because it's so overblown. It's so over the top, larger than life caricature of decadent nobility kind of thing. But then it just remains there, and Abercrombie does not follow through into any meaningful. He does not make it a political statement as such, or shows any like proper way out of there. What he does is, yeah, they're dissolute, decadent, foolish noblemen, and now they get slaughtered, and that's it. And that's fun for like 2 pages, but after that, it's just a bit too much, a bit too overblown. It's something similar to my criticism that I had of the depiction of some of the noblemen on the Chain of Dogs. But here it's even like much more turned to up to 11 than it was in Deadhouse Gates, I feel. So there's that first thing that I found is just, I don't know. In general, once again, things are very much on the nose. It's like I like the foreshadowing of the Field Marshal Burr having obviously something of either a stomach ulcer or like cancer or whatever. But come on, every single time he shows up in a chapter, we get him 3 times burping and complaining about it, and it takes until like the last third of the book to actually show up. It's a bit too much, a bit too over like, once again, it's a bit too much on the nose, too much on the nose for me, I feel. And that's something that I guess is my general criticism of a lot of these, especially this one, not compared to the first one. This one is very much, in a way, repeating its themes a lot. A few times too many for my tastes. So there's that. And that goes for all the characters. Next bit, my criticism from the first law, like female characters. It's slightly better and slightly worse at the same time. On the one hand, I do like the character of Cathil. That's pretty well done. You have your like active female character that kind of breaks stereotypes and in a good way, and all of that. That is really well done. The entire like dynamic between Colin West, her, and the Dogman, that is just really well done, with her saying that she doesn't want to be with West because West is too angry for her. I really appreciated that. That's a bonus. That's a plus for me on this one. Then, on the other hand, we have Magister Carlot Danida, or whatever her name is, the merchantess. And I don't know. So on the one hand, there's a lot of cliches in there. Her being maybe a pacifist and all into I don't know, being a traitor because she wants to avoid bloodshed, and has like this bad conscience because of how the merchants treated. It feels a bit too, I don't know, unrealistic. But my main issue there is actually, and we'll come to that. Yeah, let's go with that right now. It's like you have the you know you have a conspiracy within that, and obviously the one female character in power is the mastermind of the conspiracy. And she is that because of moral and emotional reasons. That's a bit too stereotypical, I feel. There could have been more to it, is what I'm saying. It's unfortunate that she is like the one who is actually the traitor, like the main traitoress, I guess. Is traitoress the actual, I don't know. Anyway, so that, I don't know, that felt a bit too stereotypical, and I didn't like that so much. In general, and this is the other thing that I said like last time, like the depiction of the Gurkish is something that I found even more problematic this time round. I mean, come on. They're like one letter away from being Turkish in the name. That's very close to. I mean, you have that you have them all being very faithful, and then you have them like the first ambassador showing up with his robes, and like the depiction. That's prime Orientalism there, and that's, I don't know. I'm not saying that was the intention or anything, but what I'm saying is that it is very heavy-handed. I'm not accusing Joe Abercrombie of anything here. I'm just saying it's lazy because of the style of world building that he does. He doesn't give us a lot of background and detail. What he does is he gives us enough like hints that we then fill in like with our own world's expectation. And that's fine and good. But on the other hand, the depiction of the radical religious fanatics, part of that southern continent place, and they're wearing those long robes with these nice scroll work and shit, and their black beards and everything. Really? Was that necessary? Wouldn't it have been much more like subverting tropes is something else than doing this here. Once again, I'm not saying you can't have that, and there is twists to that, but because of the style of writing and the style of world building, it will be read and filled up by most readers, I guess, with all these images of either I don't know, Ottoman fanatics or Arab fanatics or whatever we as a Western readership have in our cultural background that we like should consciously think against, I guess. So yeah, I'm still very angry, and I found it this time with the Siege of Dagosca being much more of a problem than with the first time around, because we get to see more of it right now, and that I feel is a large issue that needs addressing. And once again, I'm not accusing Joe Abercrombie of anything here. I just feel it's lazy. It's lazy world building that can become dangerous because of how it's playing with real world things, because of the style of world building that he has. So yeah, there's that. I'm not happy with it. What else do we have? The whole idea of that adventure plot, and the whole idea of the adventure plot of Bayaz and the others going to the edge of the world to find this magical weapon. Look, I get it. It's a nice idea to subvert the whole like Lord of the Rings trope of the group going to destroy the most powerful weapon. They're actually going to find the most powerful weapon. That's cool. In theory. Some parts it gets a bit too close to Lord of the Rings kind of thing for my idea, like for my comfort, basically, with their passage through that old empire capital. That's the name I already have forgotten, being something of a very obvious like Moria stand-in, Khazad-dûm stand-in, even with the idea of what's his name, Glustrod, having buried too deep to find that powerful weapon. Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it. And there's enough to be made fun of or to be subverted in The Lord of the Rings. But I feel it is a bit heavy-handed at this point, but maybe that's exactly what I meant by revisiting. It's like I didn't read all of these things into it when I read it first. I was like, I found the story a bit dragged a bit, but that's something that you have with a lot of trilogies. That the middle book is the dragging one in a way. I mean, it's the same with Lord of the Rings actually, where you have this endless crawling of Frodo and Sam through like the Emin Muil and the swamps and all that. It's like it drags. Um, but for someone trying to subvert, or a story so obviously trying to subvert these things, it then falls prey to the same, like, I don't want to say weakness, but to the same problem by making the middle book very much about different people traveling. It's a lot of traveling all over the place, and travel montages are very difficult to write in a good way. And this is where I feel Tolkien succeeds and Abercrombie does not succeed, because Tolkien managed to actually write interesting, like land, like environmental description, because he knows all those trees. I don't know trees, but all my English tree names I've learned through reading Tolkien, because he has all those. But the way he describes his world through which people travel kind of works in a way, and the very sparse or very like ironically detached prose that Stephen Erickson, Joe Abercrombie uses doesn't lend itself to it. It sometimes feels once again more like a more abstract, just painting in the rough outlines and not coloring them in kind of way of describing places, and that I feel is exactly the problem there when you actually yeah, when you have a lot of your thing being about traveling, especially on that long like hero quest that Bayaz and Luther and Nine Fingers are on. It works much better in the north with West and the Northmen, because their group banter is more interesting. The tensions are higher. The group banter works better, but it doesn't work so well with that group, I feel, because yeah, we there's not much to talk about when like landscape wise when it comes to the north. It's all freezing and mud and snow, melting snow or falling snow and mud. But there's always West's rage or the interaction. Like it works better there because the group dynamic is a better one. I did actually kind of feel better this time round about the really fraught relationship between Pharaoh, Malgin, and Nine Fingers. I felt it was like an honest, realistic kind of depiction of that kind of relationship that happens from time to time, and it was done in like all in a very respectful way. I feel it's like I get it. Maybe that's because I'm older now and I've known more people, I've known more relationships than I don't know 15 years ago. So maybe that's why I appreciated this bit more than I did the last time round. The whole like Luthar Bayaz thing is like I mean at this point I know the stories, right? I know the overarching thing. There's a lot of blanks that I will have to fill in when I'm reading Last Argument of Kings now, because there's a lot of stuff I've forgotten about the story, but the overarching theme and like the ending of it is still in my mind, and all of that kind of works, I guess. I still don't like Luthar. I do appreciate Bayaz as subverting the trope of the mentor and wise wizard. He's a good anti-Gandalf, is what I'm trying to say here. I also thought that once again the whole thing with the with the generals in the north, Polder and Croy, oh, that was also overdone. For me, I guess really the large thing is there that right now I'm used to more subtle characterizations, to more subtle prose in a way, to And yeah, Abercrombie is not a subtle author in that regard. Not in his language, not in his characters, and so forth. A lot of it feels like just taking archetypes and not doing much to actually give them any kind of depth. There, a lot of those people are like, especially the sort of side characters, seem to be really not like multifaceted. Logan Ninefingers has facets. Even Pharaoh has some facets. Luthor a little bit, although his change from super arrogant asshole to remorseful asshole comes a bit too quickly, a bit too heavy-handedly, I feel, but still okay. Yeah. What else? Um, I don't know. I felt like the whole idea of Sandan Glocter's whole plot line this time around is, I don't know. I still struggle with Glocta. There will be that video that that was the reason for me actually going to reread all that First Law stuff, which I'm kind of semi thankful for, but still. I felt the it just all doesn't really fully add up. He's like, yeah, he wants to get the job done. He's doing a lot of brutal stuff to get like results and shit, and he does a few good things when he lets the actual citizens, the native citizens of Dagoska up into the city. All of that. But still, I don't know. It just made me uncomfortable in a way. That's not because he's a torturer. And we get some really problematic torture scenes in there. And, I've got no problem with that. I've read my share of books with highly explicit descriptions of violence. That's not the point, but it just really the way all of this felt. It could have been a really good. It could have been a really good commentary on colonialism, on all of that, the economic thing behind colonialism, the fact that an actual country almost never really profited that much from colonies. It's more like private enterprises that actually get the money, and the country pays for it. The local people are put down, exploited to the maximum. It's horrible. They're dehumanized. All of these things were possible there, and most of it was just glanced over. I do sometimes appreciate Nikomo Koska as the mercenary in a way. I do have some, he's kind of cool, but still. I guess in general, and that might just be me having read so much more since I first read the First Law, but I feel I read these books now and I see all the missed chances where I'm like, that could have been so much better. That could have been so much more, meaningful. But instead, it's a lot of times just like too much just a sketch of what could have been in a way. I mean, this is not a short book. That's the point. There's a lot of time wasted for other stuff that could have been used to actually make points a bit more poignantly. Anyway, I feel the whole like return to Adjua, the plot line there. Yeah, necessity and all that, but I don't know. Still doesn't really feel too. I don't know. I feel in the end, this is, as I said, the middle part of a trilogy, and those are always difficult to write. You have a lot of travel narratives that don't really work out so well because of what I just said. the actual like travel stuff not being described too well, because that's kind of anathema to Abercrombie's general writing style and world building style. Um, Things being a bit too over the top, being too overblown, making it too, yeah. But that might just also be me having a different kind of aesthetic in a way that I like more subtle nuances, and Abercrombie, at least here, is not the man for nuance in almost any situation. There's, as I said, there's nuances sometimes, and they are great, but a lot of time it just feels like, I don't know, could have been done better. It's like, yeah, you have the old empire, and I've studied a bit of like late antiquity, early medieval times history, and I see the idea of like an empire like the Roman Empire, for example, destroying itself and being torn apart, and you have all these smaller kingdoms with people pretending to be emperors, and you have like 5 emperors fighting. I get all of that, but it just felt like, I don't know. It just all doesn't really add up in the end. Is what I mean. Like, it doesn't really add up in the end, and that's sort of what left me relatively dissatisfied with Before They're Hanged. And in my memory, I found that the ending of Last Argument of Kings didn't really satisfy me either. But as I said, it's been like almost 15 years, probably like 15 years since I last read it, and a good chance that there's a good chance that I might see these things differently, and I've certainly forgotten a lot of things. Yeah, so my memory was kind of confirmed that I didn't like Before They're Hanged as much as the Blade itself. I found a few characters done a bit better. I still think the depiction of Gurkel is problematic because it can be read as highly Orientalist, almost Islamophobic, and I don't like that. And I'm currently reading Last Argument of Kings, and hopefully on Sunday I'll have a video for you about me looking at Sandang Glocta and Karos Invictad and Fine D Swing, and how secret police is depicted in fantasy books. We'll see how that goes. Until then, have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.